Hello and welcome. Sigrid Kaste here, Sticky Week Marketing. I help coaches and consultants write and publish a marketing ready book in 6 weeks or less. And today I have with me someone very special, Marlene NEUMANN, and she is a very special fine art photographer. Welcome, Marlene.
Thank you, Sigrid. Thank you very much. Lovely to be here with you.
Fantastic. And it is really great. You're not only a fine art photographer, and you're going to tell us a little bit about how that is very different from so many other photography and photographers, but I'd also am interested, you are an inspirational speaker and an author. So I'd love to touch on those two areas with you as well. Tell me a little bit about how did you get into photography?
Well, it's quite an interesting thing. I think that, my path now has become quite a spiritual journey through photography. I started photography when I was 14 years old. And if I look back over those years, I think, in fact, I have a knowing that it was a form of communication for me. It was a form of language, and now we talk about intuitive photography. So in those days, I didn't know I was doing it, but I was intuiting everything I was photographing. And it was the one way. I mean, my background is German, but I grew up in a family that, it was changing. Living in South Africa, it was changing from German to English. So there was a slight language difficulty for me, and the way I could communicate was I used to photograph in pictures what I was feeling. And when I went to college and I actually studied graphic design, but my focus was, one of my subjects was photography, and I just fell in love with this medium, that it was pure magic. It was magic. And I realized, I now 35, 40 years later, I teach anyone that can learn how to take or capture the essence of something. So photography, we use the word photography, but it's a whole nother world that has opened up, and quite a spiritual journey. Yeah,
I can imagine there's a lot more behind it. So that's what I started with as a photographer. It was an apprenticeship in my days, and probably similar to you. We still were doing the black and white, moving the film, shaking, and so on in the and all that. Yeah. Now with digital, very, very different, but the medium itself it goes beyond the picture. There's so much more to it. It's an impression that you put on other people, out for other people, but it's also how you are expressing yourself. And hearing you talk about the spiritual journey of it, that's completely another depth to it by the sounds of it.
Hugely. That's where I've really gone into now. I run an online retreat called Wild at Heart Retreat. And, those students, they're mainly students that have come through all my photography workshops. And we're almost, we are. I also run a workshop called Soul Photography. So it's really contemplative photography. It's almost their Zen approach to life. And capturing one picture that really expresses a deep emotion of yourself. So photography for me has, I studied all the old 1940 master photographers, starting with Alfred Stieglitz. And he had a great influence in when I did my master's. And I mean, they were metaphorical photographers. So I would like to say that I'm a metaphorical photographer, an intuitive photographer. And yes, it's you can't separate what you photograph from who you are and what you're feeling. It's impossible,
It's an expression of yourself. Now, I say that about when people write a book, when they write it in a particular way, it really is an expression of themselves. So I'm assuming, what is the title of your book, Marlene, if I can ask you?
I've actually got 3 books. The one is not published yet. I'm still working on that. It's nearly finished. The one I've published, which is called Sky Meets Land. And that was a metaphor for mind meets heart. And that has all I self-published and many years ago. And I think I have very few copies left even of that book.
Fantastic. So again, it's an expression of you. You've used a metaphor for what you are describing and sharing in there. And I think it is excellent, actually, that you're talking about workshops. You're bringing people through workshops. I think that is an absolutely wonderful, meaningful way, not only to share your knowledge, your expertise with people, but also to take them to their own inner way of finding their expression in photography.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, the great thing I always say to everyone is that you ain't getting out of this world alive. So the more knowledge we have, Sigrid, the more we can share, the more we can, you know, it's not about me or you or anyone against one another. It's a oneness. And you know, being able to teach people, you know, over the 35 years I've taught many students, or hundreds, thousands of students. And then I have a very small group, a selective group, going with me on the retreat, you know, where we've really started to take photography to a much deeper and a much higher level.
On a different level. So how do, in the first instance, how do people find you?
Some just miraculously find me on the internet, because it's such a big place. And I think how you can find me is if you just go to my website, or www.marleneneumann.com,
Yeah.
or they will just email me at neumann@worldonline.co.za. Yeah, so we have.
How would they, so when I say how do they find you, what would they be searching for you?
Probably intuitive photography or fine art photography. I've had a few students from the USA and the UK, and that was how they found me. They were looking. It's really for photographers, or for people, not just photographers, for people that are wanting to, you know, just really connect with life, and make it, you know, having an understanding that we are taught to live separate from life, from the world outside of us. So large part of my workshops is living in the present moment, because that is where the true essence of a photograph happens, is where you're actually are able to capture that split second. I mean, it's magic. It's absolute magic. And I also have a DVD series, or a series that is out on 4 episodes. It's called Capturing What People Don't Talk About: Energy, Emotion, and Spirit.
Oh.
And that can also be downloaded from Vimeo. Yeah, that's on Vimeo. You can just download them, or you can, you know, contact me directly for that. Very interesting. You know, there I really go into quite a lot of depth, and you go on a journey with me, you know, and see how life has replicated itself. You know, like the foot of an elephant. The base of an elephant is so similar to the tree trunk of an ancient tree, or an aloe. You know, the base of an aloe. It's so interesting how just intuitively life has replicated things. And so, yeah, you know, a lot of most of the time, a lot of us live disconnected from ourselves, even let alone life. So my whole approach or philosophy is, you know, photography is just a way to bring it all together. It's a way to, yeah.
I felt always drawn to close-up photography, to really hone in deeper and closer to things, the structures of it. And you know, when you have a nature and you have leaves, what they are really like, what the surface, the top is like, whether there are hairs on it, that sort of thing. So looking really close up to and you're going into the next level, in my opinion, to go to that spiritual, behind the scenes.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So
I think, yeah, Sigrid, I probably wouldn't do photography if it wasn't the spiritual side. I just see there's such a connection. And the old 1940 American photographers, Alfred Stieglitz and them, and for those who love painting, he was married to Georgia O'Keeffe. It was her husband. But you know, they had I mean, this kind of stuff is an art form. It's beyond the mind. So we take photographs with no mind. So it's very much the contemplative approach to photography.
Would you say that that in the world that we are today, I mean, up until recently, where all these world events happened, people were just rushing through and going from one thing to another. They lost the art of seeing what's behind things and feeling that there is more to it. And I think with these events recently where we've been locked away and where we have not been able to connect with others physically, do you think that's taken more people more close to looking at the spiritual side of things?
Definitely, definitely. You know, through the lockdown, because I mean, my business basically went, oh my gosh, I don't do any more shows. I can't bring people to my center, you know, in South Africa. So it was a bit of a shock. So I started some online talks, and one of the talks was what it means to wake up, and different talks like that. And just people came. You know, some were psychologists, some were photographers, some were teachers, some were accountants. Whatever, they just came to these talks, and then I started to, you know, they started to want to know more, because my connection through photography, and really I've been doing this for 35 years, you know, and you can see there's this big gallery and I've got another big studio. This is not a hobby, this is my life, and it's never ever been about technical for me, ever. It's been about connection. You know, I remember studying, and I remember my teacher, my lecturer going, but what f-stop was this on, or what shutter speed? And I would have to make it up because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, you know, because he would go, oh my God, how did you do this? And I would go, you know, I'd have to make it up because I think it was on this, or I think it was on that. Because for me, I remember photographing a whole lot of Nguni. Nguni are cattle. I don't know if you get Nguni in Australia, but Nguni are a type of cattle that come from South Africa and very peaceful. So once a farmer said to me, you know, would you mind if you came and photographed these cattle and Nguni cows? And I said to him, yes, I've always wanted to. So, but I spent 3 months working with them, but it was more about spending time with these cows.
Yes.
And learning from them. And so eventually out of that, I got, after 3 months, yes, I might have taken a lot of photographs, but I only got 7 that I worked with, and I called them the 7 sacred Nguni, because they hold the energy. So for me, Sigrid, it's about capturing energy.
Yeah.
Everything is energy.
I find that amazing too, because people would come to realize what they have in themselves. I could imagine by coming to you, not that I've done your workshops, but from my, you know, photography kind of background, I could imagine that is what they are doing. They are all of a sudden able to express themselves and find their own inner voice in a way.
It's really accessing the intuitive side to themselves. You know, and there's one workshop coming up now in March called Creativity Through Photography. So we start off, because creativity is everything, actually. Creativity is whether you're a mathematician or an author or whatever, it's all about creativity and accessing that side of yourself that is from innocence. Yes. I always refer to it as, I want my students to be able to always photograph from something what we call the beginner's mind. Yeah. You know, the minute you think you know too much, or so in our workshops, in my workshops, it's not about criticizing you. It's more about looking at what's there and how can we explode that? How can we grow that? So people who come, they can be high professional photographers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the stuff that you're going to learn, the stuff that you're going to work with is yourself. We work with you and your own. You're absolutely right, Sigrid.
It's not about comparing yourself to others anyway, is it? It comes to
it isn't.
An expression. There's no comparing.
And it's taking, you know, it's like the rest of the world. You know, a lot of us have realized and woken up to the fact that we've got to get out of the matrix. So photography in itself has been in the matrix for many, 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 many years. And so this is an out-of-the-box spiritual approach to photography, where what you photograph is who you are. And it speaks, you know, there's no right or wrong.
No.
And you'll be amazed. You know, you'll be amazed when students just find this in themselves, that the stuff some of my students are producing is at mastery level, and they don't even know it, you know, and we don't, you know, we don't compare or compete, or it's lovely.
And does it matter what medium they use? Is there any preference for the photography medium that they use or that you use, Marlene?
They can use a cell phone.
Whatever
Because
they,
they can use a cell phone, they can use their high-end cameras, because it's more about an awakening. It's more about, it's actually called, I actually call it a spiritual photographic awakening.
It is different, isn't it? Wow. I'm starting to think I should do one of those courses or workshops that you're offering here, because it really sounds very, very different. I think it's sort of almost like a connection to go to for people that are spiritually aware or want to become more aware of, as you said, your inner voice, what your inner, because it's there, we have it, but in this fast-paced world, we are not recognizing it, are we? So it sounds like you're bringing that out, helping people to bring that out.
You know what, Sigrid, I did a Facebook Live on my page this past week on seeing illusions. I don't know if you happen to watch it, but we're living in an illusion. And we don't know it. We don't know that we are experiencing illusion. So through the photography, and I talk about photography because that's the title they give it. If I had another name, I would call it something else. But in actual fact, you're really experiencing in totality what you're photographing and living in the present moment, in the now, where there's no mind and the thoughts go away and they leave you. And you see this, you know, you see this incredible image of life, you know. I think photography is the most magical things, like music and writing, and it's straight from God. It really is. It's direct from the divine.
It's the connection to our higher,
our source. Our source.
Excellent. Are there particular types of people that come to do your workshops, Marlene? I know you mentioned different backgrounds, sort of different professions and so on, but is it a particular type of person?
I think a person who, number one, I get quite a lot of photographers who are stuck in their photography, that have been in a system that has got a lot of rules and set ways of how to do things. They want to get out of that because they feel they're not growing. So in these workshops, it's about the person growing. Your photography, you can do 1,000 workshops, but if you don't shift, if you don't move inside yourself emotionally, spiritually, mentally, your photography is never going to change. So we get those kind of people. We get people who just really enjoy taking nature photography. They might, you know, have owned a little mick and drick. That's a South African term. Just a point and shoot, just a point and shoot camera. You know, and they want to just carry on. So I have a small program of how to use your camera. So we need to get that past. You know, we do that quickly within an hour. And then we move on to the real stuff. Then there might be people that are spiritually connected and they just want to really learn to bring in the creative side. So there are about 3 or 4 different kinds of people. Then you get the husbands that are just dragged along with the wives, or the other way around.
Yes, you always have those ones. So
and you also get young people, you know, people that are not that can't find their way in life, and their parents think that, you know, those that have worked with me for many years have realized that this gives the young people some kind of direction in their lives, because everything is so fast paced. And we go back to the beginning. We go back to literally the present moment, learning how to do that, you know, because we've lost it. You know, photography is something that, if I look at every single one of my photographs, you know, over 35 years, I never take 100 photographs. I may even go on a shoot and come back with absolutely nothing. So I only ever work when I'm totally connected to what it is. And I wait, Sigrid, I wait for it to pop out to me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So it really is the right moment coming from inside, telling you, more or less, that's in my words, telling you now's the time, this is the moment, this is the picture to take. That's powerful, Marlene. That's powerful.
It's very powerful stuff. It really is powerful. And the DVD series called Capturing What People Don't Talk About really you know, for those that are wanting to wake up, you know, I mean, it's really for those that want to wake up, that have been asleep and they know there's more to life. They know it, but they just don't know how to start, or they don't know where to go to, you know.
Wonderful.
And
What would you leave our audience with to come into that, or for them to consider perhaps to come to you or to do next, because they are now intrigued and interested? What are you going to leave them with?
Thank you, Sigrid. I wasn't even thinking when I did the interview with you about that, but it's just, I think I just get so excited about, you know, when I see the students come in and when I see them go out, you know, the difference in them. And so, yeah, I think that if you're really wanting to take the next step in your life, if you're really wanting to connect, you're tired of your life, you're tired of how you're feeling, you know there's more to life. And most of us we're living in the matrix. You know, we don't even know that there's another world. And once you start seeing, I teach you different ways and simple ways of how to actually connect to yourself, just listening to yourself, and how that resonates with what you're photographing. Because remember, the camera lens is just an extension of your eyes, your eye lens, which is an extension of your heart.
Wow, I like that. Yes, yes, it's an extension of our eyes. And
that's it.
From behind, though, comes from the inside too. What you see is unique to you, isn't it? It's unique to me. It's unique to each person.
And I think if you've always had an interest for something like that, and you know that somewhere hidden away, because every single one of us is creative. There isn't a human being that isn't creative. And if you know that you've had this, or if you already doing something and you just want to expand on it and go deeper into yourself, this is the way.
Wow, fantastic. I thank you for your time, Marlene, to share.
Thank you, Sigrid.
And go into those details for our audience here. I think that we're going to put some links below into the comments with it, so that people can connect with you and have a look at the various workshops that you offer. That'll be exciting for people. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
We're looking forward to putting the links in for people.
Okay. Thank you, Sigrid. Thank you very much.
See you.
Okay. Bye.